This is a story about a young woman named Keisha who lived in Atlanta. She was a kind-hearted person, known for her gentle voice and a smile that could soothe anyone. Men were drawn to her, offering her promises of houses, money, and trips around the world. However, Keisha wasn't interested in any of these things. She didn't care about luxury cars, tall men, or material wealth. She would thank them for their offers, but her heart was waiting for something else. Keisha had a secret desire that she never shared with anyone. She wanted a man who could truly satisfy her, not with money, fame, or muscles, but in a more intimate way. She didn't care if he was rich or poor, tall or short, as long as he was capable of fulfilling her desires. At night, she would sometimes whisper a prayer, asking for a man who could handle her. She had everything else: beauty, a peaceful life, and a good family, but she was still waiting. One day, a man named DeAndre came into her life. He wasn't the man she had been praying. DeAndre wasn't tall or rich, and he didn't wear expensive clothes. But he had a kind heart. He owned a small shop near a busy street in Decatur, where he sold phone accessories. DeAndre first saw Keisha as she was walking by one afternoon. He was captivated by her and, with a pounding heart, he went outside and complimented her smile. Keisha smiled back, not just because of his words, but because of his gentle and soft-spoken nature, which was a refreshing change from the loud and boisterous men she was used to. From that day on, DeAndre was always there for her. He would bring her lunch, buy her thoughtful, useful gifts like slippers and an umbrella. When Keisha's mother fell ill, DeAndre was the first to help, bringing medicine, paying the hospital bill, and even helping with chores around the house. Keisha's mother was impressed, noting that DeAndre was different. For 6 months, DeAndre did everything he could to make Keisha happy, and she did smile. She began to think that maybe this was what love felt like: something gentle, quiet, and safe. One evening, as they sat together, DeAndre held her hand and asked her to marry him. Remembering all of his kindness, Keisha slowly nodded and said yes. The sky seemed to celebrate their decision, but in Keisha's heart, a single question remained unanswered. Could he satisfy her? She didn't ask him then, but she knew the answer was coming, and it would change everything. A short while later, DeAndre and Keisha took a bus to East Point for a friend's wedding. The trip was long but pleasant, filled with conversation and laughter. DeAndre held her hand gently. When they arrived, they checked into a simple hotel room. The wedding was the next day, and that night, Keisha's mind was not on wedding plans. She looked at DeAndre and quietly asked, "Can I see it?" DeAndre was surprised, but after a moment he understood. Shyly he stood up, turned his back to her, and revealed himself. Keisha's heart was pounding. She closed her eyes, then opened them, and her smile disappeared. It was small. She was stunned and couldn't speak, but her expression said it all. DeAndre softly asked what was wrong. Keisha took a deep breath, and her words came out harshly. She told him it was too small and that she couldn't be with him. She compared what she wanted to a cassava, and what he had to a carrot. DeAndre's face fell. He looked at himself and then at her, his voice shaking as he said he loved her. Keisha forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Feeling a tightness in her chest, she stood up and walked into the bathroom, locking the door. Looking at her reflection, she whispered to herself that she couldn't do it again, that she wanted a specific size. She didn't sleep well that night. While DeAndre snored lightly, Keisha lay awake, her heart now. By the time the wedding ended the next day, she knew what she had to do. She planned to leave quietly without looking back. At the wedding, DeAndre was full of joy, telling her they would be next and that he would save for a big wedding. Keisha nodded, but her small smile didn't match her eyes. That night, back at the hotel, DeAndre fell asleep quickly, but Keisha sat by the window, her mind far away. Before dawn, she had packed her bags and quietly left the room. When the sun rose, DeAndre woke up and called for her, but there was no answer. His heart began to pound. He sat on the bed, confused and lost, asking himself what he had done wrong. After days of calling, a message informed him that the number was no longer available. Keisha had blocked him. DeAndre was heartbroken. He stopped eating, closed his shop, and just stared at the wall, his peace gone with her. Keisha moved on, wiping her heart clean and putting on a smiling face as if nothing had happened. Her friends didn't know what had transpired. Then one day she received a message on Instagram from a man named Malik. His profile showed pictures of him in clean suits, at his office desk and at the gym. Keisha was intrigued, thinking he looked serious. They began to chat, and his messages were calm and gentle. He told her he worked at a bank and liked her spirit. Within a week, they were talking every night, and within a month, they were dating. Malik was gentle and didn't rush her. He took her out to restaurants, shopping, and the movies. He bought her shoes, sent her money, and gave her his jacket when she was cold. Keisha smiled again, thinking he might be the one. But she still felt a need to be sure about the one thing that truly mattered to her. She needed more than just love. One weekend, Malik invited her to his apartment in Peachtree. It was clean and smelled of vanilla and perfume. He cooked for her, played soft music, and lit a candle. Keisha joked that he was turning his house into a wedding reception, and Malik smiled, saying it would only happen if she agreed. They ate, laughed, and watched a movie. As the room grew quiet, Keisha looked at him and, just as she had with DeAndre, she asked to see it. Malik was surprised but eventually laughed and agreed, revealing himself. Keisha closed her eyes, took a breath, and opened them slowly, her heart sinking once again. It was small. Not as small as DeAndre's, but still not what she wanted. She didn't say a word. The next morning, she hugged him lightly, thanked him, and walked out the door, never to return. That evening, Malik tried to call and text her, but got no reply. He discovered she had blocked him on his phone, WhatsApp, and Instagram. Her pictures were gone from his phone. Confused and heartbroken, he whispered, "What did I say? What did I do wrong?" After Malik. Then she met Tasha. Tasha was tall, strong, and had a muscular build. Keisha met him at a club, and he stood out from the crowd with his smooth dance. She watched him, captivated, and when he came up to her, she laughed and joined him. From that night on, Tasha pursued her relentlessly. He took her out to parties, sent her sweet messages, and even opened a store for her, which was a dream come true. Her friends and mother were impressed. Keisha told herself that Tasha might be the one, but she was still waiting for him to prove one more thing. One night, Tasha took her to his house. The room had a warm scent, the bed was large, and the lighting was low. Keisha's heart beat fast as they kissed and lay down. She hoped this was the one who could handle her. Tasha removed his clothes, and Keisha's eyes widened when she saw that he met her physical expectations. It was big and strong, just as she had prayed for. They laid down and Tasha began. But after only a minute, he let out a shout and rolled off the bed, exhausted. Keisha was confused and asked what was wrong. Tasha, breathing heavily, said it was fire. Keisha sat up, her body still cold, and confronted him, saying it wasn't even a minute. Tasha blamed it on stress from work. They tried again, but it was the same story, over in 30 seconds. This time, Keisha didn't say anything. She got dressed, picked up her bag, and walked to the. When Tasha asked if she was angry, she didn't answer. Instead, she said, "Your body passed the test, but your engine failed," and left. Tasha tried to call and text her the next day, but she didn't respond. She still walked with confidence and smiled at people. However, inside, she was changing. She was tired of the cycle of testing and hoping. Her heart felt heavy. She even had dreams of DeAndre, the man with a small size but a big heart, but she pushed them away, believing the right one was still out there. She didn't know that the next man would change her life forever. At a wedding one afternoon, Keisha sat under a canopy in a red dress. A black car pulled up, and a large man got out. His belly was big, his cheeks were round, and he had gray hair. His eyes found Keisha, and he walked over to her table. Looking her in the eye, he said, "You are the woman I want to marry." Keisha laughed, thinking it was a joke. He told her that while he might not have youth, he could offer her peace, respect, and honor. Keisha was taken aback by his words. He said he might not be rich now, but he knew how to treat a wife. A few days later, they sat together under a mango tree. Keisha, her voice low, asked him about his size. Chief explained that in his family, they don't have physical relations before marriage. Keisha was concerned, asking how she would know what she was marrying. He laughed and said his family was full of good surprises. Keisha didn't like the rule, but Chief's gentle voice and his promise to pay for everything, her gown, makeup, and bride price, swayed her. The next day, Chief went to her parents' house, brought gifts and money, and respectfully asked for her hand in marriage. Her parents happily agreed, and her mother was thrilled. Keisha looked at her reflection that night. Her head said yes, but her heart was not full. Wedding preparations began. She smiled in pictures, but deep down, a question remained. What would she find on her wedding night? She was about to find out, and her joy wouldn't last. After the last guest left, Chief took Keisha to a hotel room. The room was dimly lit and quiet. It began to undress, and Keisha's heart pounded. Then she saw it and froze. It was big, just like a yam that refused to be sliced. She blinked, but it was still there. The next morning, Chief wanted her again, and it continued like that, morning, evening, and sometimes in the middle of the night. Keisha tried to keep up and enjoy it, but her body began to fail her. Her legs shook, her waist hurt, and her back ached. One night, she crawled into the bathroom, tears streaming down her face. Her voice was weak, and she whispered to her reflection that it was too much, that she hadn't prayed for this kind of intensity. The thing she had once prayed for had become a punishment. Her smile faded, and the peace Chief had promised was nowhere to be found. 3 weeks passed, and Keisha was exhausted. Each night, Chief came to her like a storm, and each morning she limped to the bathroom. One morning, while he was away, she packed a bag, put on her slippers, and left the house without a word. She ran to her aunt's house in another town. When her aunt opened the door, she saw tears, fear, and dust on Keisha's face. Keisha fell onto a chair and said she had made a mistake and couldn't go back. 3 days later, 2 men from Chief's family arrived at the door, stating that divorce was not an option in their family. Her aunt begged them to give her time, but they shook their heads. They picked up Keisha's bag and told her to come home. When she returned, she found the house empty and cold. The fine car, the expensive clothes, the curtains, and the big TV were all gone. She discovered that the wedding ring was fake and that everything Chief had used to impress her had been borrowed. Even the chair she sat on had a broken leg. Chief came out of the other room with a tired smile, and Keisha finally saw the full truth. Chief had nothing. He had no business, no house of his own, and no savings. He had only wanted a wife, and his family had helped him get one. Now they expected her to stay and serve him. But there was no love, no joy, and no peace. Some nights, as Chief snored, Keisha would stare at the ceiling, her hands resting on her empty stomach. She had lost her store to debt, her friends were gone, and her laughter was a distant memory. She thought of DeAndre, the one with a small physical size but a big heart. Remembered his gentle love and how he had helped her mother. She whispered to herself, "Why didn't I stay?" But the wind didn't answer, and the walls remained silent. Now, at 28, Keisha looked much older. Her face was drawn, her smile was fake, and she cried. At night, she would sometimes open the window and stare at the sky, hoping the stars would take her away, but they never did. She was stuck in a house built on lies with a man who gave her his body, but nothing more.